a lot smaller than the core columns. If you look at the core columns, some of them are very substantial, especially near the bottom of the building. They're you get 3-inch thick steel boxes.
Okay.
So I don't know offhand what the proportions are, but I would suspect that the core is carrying more of the weight than the exterior columns.
Okay. And what was this that you sent me the last time that you tried to show me different blocks? I see.
Yeah, that's kind of. I sent you something that is a diagram that 9/11 Truthers use. Now you've seen Richard Gage's cardboard box example. So this is basically a diagram of that example. So there's one box with nothing underneath it, and then there's another box with the building underneath it. And then I contrast that with a picture of, I believe it's World Trade Center 2 collapsing. And you see that there aren't any blocks. There's no block falling. There's pieces falling off the side of the building, which fall at free fall, minus air resistance. And then there's the collapse wave, which you can't see because it's behind a whole bunch of smoke, but it's basically going to be a huge wave of very large pieces of debris and broken rubble and things like that. Thousands of tons, like sacks of rocks falling on your house type thing, falling through the floors. And then right at the top, you can see part of the core of the building still there, still poking up above the wave. So there's no blocks.
So block C in your picture here, that's the core columns.
I believe it is. Yeah, it's either the core columns or there's some core columns to the right, the left, and possibly exterior on the right. It's a bit hard to see.
Okay.
I think it lines up with the core from that, and it's kind of leaning over a bit. But definitely the core column remains in a lot of the diagrams.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Photographs.
Yeah, and some of the Judy Woods followers, they think when those core columns came down, they think it was dustified, but it's the dust remaining on the columns that just remain in the air.
Yeah, which is the whole dustification thing is utterly ridiculous.
Of course.
Because just from simple physics, like the energy of breaking the molecular bonds of steel would release so much heat that the steel dust would ignite in a huge explosion. So it's it wouldn't work. it would vaporize. It would vaporize the steel and ignite it. So you would basically get the entire Manhattan would be destroyed in a near nuclear explosion with the amount of energy that would be released, unless it was dustified with magic.
Yeah, but it's sort of a magic, and it's a funny theory, at least to hear, because it's just so funny to see like them trying to actually argue the case.
Well, because they're arguing. It's based on what they see. A lot of people, they see something and they perceive it a certain way, and they don't like to be told that what they're seeing isn't what happened. Now, so a lot of people, they see some pictures of the core columns that fall after the building has collapsed, and they see after they fall, they leave almost like a dust outline of where they were, which looks like, especially on a low quality video, it looks like they're turning to dust. But there's a whole bunch of other, if you look at the good videos and different angles, it's very apparent that they're just falling and that they were covered with dust, and so they left dust in the air around them.
Yeah, of course.
People, once they've made their minds up, they don't like to be told that what they thought they saw isn't what they saw. It's almost like you're insulting their intelligence, or saying that they're crazy, or they don't know what they're seeing with their own eyes. So they stick with it. It's unfortunate. It's a difficult thing to get past.
Yeah, of course. And now also these days it's so many years from the actual event. So people will actually not have seen the video of it. They will just have seen like a series of pictures of this particular group of columns. So they will just have seen a group of pictures, and they will have seen like a okay, it's standing, and then it's gone with just dust remaining, and then they will think, oh, it was dustified, but they haven't seen like the actual video of it. If you see the video of it, you don't even have to have a super quality of it, but if you just see a video of it, you will see that it just makes sense.
Yeah, and I've even done some experiments with, I covered my sledgehammer with some dust and then tossed it off a wall, and you see it leaves the same type of trail behind it.
Oh, okay.
And it's just it's one of these things that has been explained many times in the past, and if you do a search for like dustification debunked World Trade Center or something like that, you'll see a variety of posts of people explaining what's going on. And I think one of the reasons it doesn't take, though, is that these explanations were done years ago. There's one on metabunk, and it was done in 2013. Which 5 years ago, and then there's others on the old JREF forum, the International Skeptics, and they're all kind of around there. But yeah, it's one of those things that because it's been going on so long, someone should really do a very detailed explanation of what's going on, that everyone could just point to this one explanation and say, here's the explanation, and it would make it easier. That's probably something I should do at some point, because I've got it on metabunk already, but it's just not very accessible. It's hard for people to find. A lot of these debunking things, they kind of get lost in time. If someone debunks something in 2008, then the website might just like fade away over time, and then it gets lost. So it's important to keep on top of these things and make sure the debunkings and the explanations are available to people in the future.
Yeah, and also there's also one other thing that you especially, and I mean you and 9/11 myths, you guys, you are sort of like not targeted maybe, but you both are like those sites that truthers are like saying, oh, you can't trust them, or they are like denigrating both of your sides because you are saying what they don't want to hear.
It's
simply
true.
For that reason. Not because you're wrong, but you say something that they don't like, and they are almost like in a, I mean, I don't want to like offend like all truthers, that's not my point, but many of them are almost like in a sort of cult, so that they believe sort of their version almost only. It's almost only their version that counts, so they cannot almost take in anything from the outside. If you are saying this, then you're probably a shield in their view.
Yeah, I think that's something that comes with time, in that they think that they've looked into it for a very long time, and if they've spent years studying it, then how could I possibly say anything that could make what they think to be wrong? So I try to not focus on saying 9/11 wasn't controlled demolition. Instead I try to look at the individual claims that they make and say, this steel isn't dustifying because you can see it fall. So if you focus more on like individual claims than on trying to say you've debunked the entire thing, then that's a helpful thing.
Okay.
Like for example, there's a famous image of the angle cut column that gets used a lot. And as people have been using this angle cut column for almost since the start as evidence of controlled demolition, and just no one took the time to actually investigate it and figure out where this column was and when it was cut and things like that. So
I've seen
I tracked that down and showed that it was cut 6 weeks after the collapse.
Were you the first one that did that?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
Because I found like some photographs on the AP website that showed the column cut and uncut on the same day, which was in the end of October. I think October 28th, as I remember. Let me have a look.
Oh wow!
I'll send you the link to that as well.
Yeah, that's a very, very good information. I mean, I have seen that many, many times, that claim, and I've seen the real image also. And it's apparently thanks to you. I didn't know it was thanks to you, but I've seen the real picture also. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, no, the picture that they give is a real picture. And
but
it
zoomed
looks
in.
like, and even the wider angle picture, they still use that one, and they use that one as evidence, so to speak. Where's my Skype window? Just 1 second here. Just having a little technical there.
Do they even use the one that is zoomed out?
Yeah, they use that one as well. They like this. I'll send you the full size one. Let me just. I need to copy it to here. So yeah, there's one picture which shows like kind of a wider shot, and it has some firemen walking around, and there's another fireman in the background, and Richard Gage says that this must be just directly after the collapse, like the day after the collapse, because there are firemen present, which isn't true, because there were firemen present all the way through the cleanup operations, because the firemen were there whenever a body needed to be recovered. So sometimes there was like one fireman for every 2 steel workers, but the firemen were there throughout the entire recovery process, and so that's another thing in itself that that Gage got wrong. Yeah, let me just move this around. I was trying to send you a picture. My computer's playing up here.
Okay, yeah.
Save the images.
I'm waiting to see if it's the one I'm thinking about, but I think so. It's a very famous picture, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, 9/11 Mysteries, I think, I just saw that recently, just a small part from 9/11 Mysteries. I think she included this one, but she included it like zoomed in. She's very, very disingenuous in 9/11 Mysteries.
And I'll show you the debunking I did as well. I just need to copy that to here and send that over. So
this one is a zoomed in, right?
Which I sent you the zoomed in one, but it also shows you the 2 other photos that I found on the AP website, which show the column after it is cut and before it was cut in the same position, and the date is on the same day. And you can tell from the surrounding rubble what stage it is on the cleanup, because it's at the bottom of the World Trade Center 1 pile, which took them several weeks to actually dig down that deep. So it's 100% proof that column was cut on that day, and it's the same column. You can see in the small inset of the picture on the right.
Yeah, very good.
It's the same column. And I've got a few other photos of it on the website in the article. I'll send you the link to that as well.
That's amazing work, actually. Now I think I've seen this picture, but with a guy with a torch behind the column, actually. Also.
Yeah, I don't think it's that exact column, because I haven't seen any pictures of someone with a torch behind that column. I've seen them, I think, doing the adjacent columns of that structure. And there's similar photos of them cutting various columns, and also cutting columns at an angle. And they cut the columns at an angle specifically so that they would fall in a certain direction.
Okay.
And there's an excerpt from one of the books where one of the guys who was working at the site explains why they did that. And this is a book that was published like 10 years ago. So so it's something that's been completely 100% debunked, and you really can't argue that it hasn't. And yet you still see it coming up like almost every day.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they rehashed a lot of stuff from 2006.
But I think this kind of presents a useful opportunity if you have something that's like such a conclusive explanation as this, that debunks something conclusively, and it's something that people have been using for a very long time. Then when you show it to them, for a lot of people, it makes them think. It makes them think, if